Welcome to the Lazlow Zone. My name is Fox Laszlo, and this is my girlfriend,
Kiera Winters.
and we have a special guest tonight. His name is Chris Anatra. He's the first company to go public on the Mandela Effect. So enter Lazlow Zone, because this is the Lazlow Zone.
Kaboom.
Hello.
Hello, Chris.
Hi, my name's Christopher Anatra. I'm the president and founder of a computer software technology company called NECS Incorporated. NECS creates a specialized line of software called Anatra, which was created for the specialized needs of the food distribution industry. A food distributor is someone that has a warehouse, they stock large quantities of food, they have a fleet of trucks, and they make deliveries to grocery stores and restaurants, etc. We've been doing this for over 25 years, so we have a lot of experience in this industry. We have over 2,000 clients that use our software, that depend on it for their day-to-day operations. I'm making this video for my clients to explain some possible causes for changes to their data and how it relates to quantum physics and a phenomena that's been called the Mandela Effect.
There, you can see me, I think. I think you can see me.
Yeah.
Yay, we got it.
Right. Hello.
Hello. So this is my girlfriend, Kiera. She runs the Mandela Effect Researchers on YouTube and on Facebook. So
Wow.
yeah,
Pleasure
Nice
to
to meet you
you.
both.
I've been on YouTube for about 2 years and researching the Mandela Effect for the same amount of time, and I've just not stopped because it just hasn't stopped. So I just kept going.
And it's not going to stop either.
I don't think it is. No.
Nope.
So tell us a bit about yourself, buddy.
Okay. So I am CEO of a company called NECS Incorporated, and our specialty is computer software for food distributors.
Right.
So that's all we do. If you do any other kind of business besides food distribution, sorry, we can't help you. But if you own a food warehouse and you need to deliver your food to the local restaurants and grocery stores, then we've got a system for you.
And you've been doing this since 1987?
Yeah, I first started actually coding this particular app in '87, and then in 1990 we became a Class C corporation. And so depends on who you ask. From the time I started coding it was '87, and we became more of an official business in '90.
Right. So you guys are out in, I believe, Connecticut? Is that the area?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm out in Toronto, Ontario. So.
Nice.
So
I like Toronto.
So what happened?
Except traffic.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I guess the first thing they're going to want to know is, like, what did you guys do to solve the data problem with the Mandela Effect? Because all your employees are probably scrambling their heads saying, how are we going to get paid when all the data's wrong?
Well, it's not so much as like all the data being wrong. It's just what it comes down to is really customers having a memory that data should be a certain way when it's not the way they remember it. Just like a typical Mandela effect. Like, you remember it being a certain way in your consciousness. So you call and you're like, hey, these numbers are wrong. They're either too high or too low, or this customer, I know they always pay their bills on time. They're always really good. And now they're struggling. Like, your system must be wrong when it's applying, cash receipts, etc. So it's always going back to the person's memory. So when we go back to the data, it supports what our software shows.
Yeah, I guess your customers would be pretty confused when they're paying for Macintosh apples and they're like, what is a Macintosh apple?
Yeah. Possibly, yes.
Why do you think that the food industry got hit so bad with Mandela effects? Or why do you think...
I think, it's funny you say that because people ask me like, how did I ever get involved in food distribution? And I tell people, I've been around food for my entire life.
Yeah.
Which is true. So food is something we all know. So I think that like when it comes to like the Haas avocados, or we all having a memory of a product called Stouffer's stovetop stuffing that never ever existed.
I totally remember that. I used to have that all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, my step-grandmother, that's all she lived off of every holiday. She made that. So that one, I was like, yeah, well, that's 100% for me, that one.
Yeah. So because food, we all are around food. Like that's one that those Mandelas will definitely resonate with people.
So what about all your other employees? What did they have to say about it?
That's a good question, because I find that with my employees, at least half of them are like this is really weird, and then there's the other half, maybe less of a minority, maybe 30% or so, that are really struggling with the whole Mandela effect, because it kind of shakes you up. It makes it so that you really question reality.
The way I have been researching it, I've been pretty spiritual my entire life, but I find it to be a spiritual awakening, right? And most people, they're not ready to ascend or be awakened, so they'll just write it off and completely ignore what you're saying, as if you're crazy, and nobody really cares what you're saying at all, because it's just too much for them to fathom. Because if the consciousness of these people can't handle that consciousness, they don't even really perceive it at all. They see nothing.
Shut down, and it's just they change the subject instantly.
It's almost like it doesn't exist for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like if you think about the 3D, 4D, 5D concept, they're locked into 3D
right
at the moment.
It's kind of
doesn't
like
mean they can't change.
It's almost like an ant trying to perceive our dimension when you can't as an ant. You're only on two planes.
That's an interesting way to put it, but sure.
Well, if you've had an outer body experience and you actually have that experience in like a lucid dream, then you know those realities exist, and that your mind is already open to that fundamental building block of another reality that you've been to, so that you can actually see it in this realm.
Exactly. And that was part of, for when I began to like notice these Mandela effects and begin what I'll call my personal awakening experience. I was introduced to, again, something personal, but something related to the Akashic records.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Akashic? Somebody told me about the Akashic records, and I'm like, Akashic what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, for people who don't know what the Akashic records are, it's basically this massive library that's been recorded in the consciousness that can be tapped into on, let's say, the fourth dimension, which you can get to on astral travel, psychics, etc. It's not the easiest way to tap into it, but there are ways that the Akashic record is real.
Yeah, the way I explain it to people too is if they're playing a game like a simulation, sometimes you can, like, let's say you get killed or something, you could play back the last 10 minutes to see what you did and not make the same mistakes, etc.
Like cheat
it's
codes.
Almost like the Akashic records are like a replay
Yeah.
of like actual events that happened. And we have our own Akashic records that I believe is part of in our DNA, which is going to be revealed by science in the future. The Earth and other planets they keep their own versions of Akashic records for what's going on the surface and so forth. So that whole subject is deep, and that's also something that made me begin to realize there's more going on than what the media, etc., what science will tell you right now.
Yeah, ever since as a child, I even was trying to explain to my dad, like, I've done this before. I've seen the future. I'm remembering the future. And he couldn't grasp what I was trying to say, but I would see myself as like a precog. I'm precognitive of something, as if we've already done this before, so that I'm actually just fulfilling something I've already done. It's something that's growing my soul, right? So maybe I'm back here, maybe I'm doing it again and again, or if we're not bound by time, if a soul dies and wants to go back and do it again, why not? There's no, you know what I mean? Maybe I did something that I want to correct and maybe do something else now and fix what I did wrong in the past. It's possible, because I'm a spiritual being bound in this body. I'm not a body trapped in a spiritual world, you know what I mean?
Exactly. You're a photonic being of light in, what do they say, in a human DNA skin suit.
Yeah.
And your dog, what's your dog saying, by the way?
This is my daughter's dog. This is Mushka. This is Moo.
Moo, okay.
Moo. She just wants
Moo.
attention.
Nice to meet you. So Moo is a consciousness having an experience in a dog DNA body. And Mushka could have been a human 100 times, and she could have been like, screw this, I want to be a dog a lifetime. Or,
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, I was just playing with dolphins the other day. I'm making a video about my Niagara Falls. We just came back from Niagara Falls. But those dolphins, they're totally conscious. I totally had a connection with that dolphin. And it could be just like, just as intelligent as you and me.
Yeah, when I look at, like, I have two dogs. They're Rhodesian Ridgebacks. Like, when I just look at them in the eyes, like, come on.
Yeah, you totally connect with them. When people tell me animals don't have feelings and that, I'm like, I can just look at an animal and have that connection, and even in my mind be able to kind of have the connection of telling them what I want them to do. Like, look at the one and they know that means we're going out right now. Like, and they're up in supper or whatever it is, right? They just know. It's not even about timing. It's this total mental connection. And
yes.
There's a lot of creatures on this world that we don't even realize. They're telepathic. Totally telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, like, since we've been talking about animals and stuff, if we have the ability to breed our own animals, people are saying that they're building these quantum computers and that they're better than, millions of times faster than a normal computer. D-wave quantum computing. Millions of times. And they're saying they're exploiting the technology from other realms and other dimensions. Like, how is that possible?
First of all, like in the video I mentioned D-Wave, but there's other companies that are, D-Wave's not the only one creating quantum computers now. I think IBM, some other big names, they're all rolling out or already have their quantum computers. What I think about that is that the quantum computer is just a tool.
Yeah.
And I don't, in my perception, and I could change this in the future because I'm learning like us all, but in my perception of things, I don't think they're actually, some people think that they're really doing something bad and evil and bringing things in. I don't necessarily think that's
like
the case
Terminator.
at all.
Yeah.
Like what?
Terminator.
Yeah, something like that. But I believe that they're a tool, but also a tool that could be used for tremendous good, like tremendous good.
It makes sense that if they had the algorithm to kind of calculate things that humans can't calculate, if it's a super calculator, then it could calculate a problem and then put it in its computer. It's the size of a fridge. It's huge. And it's cooled by these 0-point coolers. The thing needs other sentient kind of computers to connect with it, like a big blockchain. That's how they work.
Yeah, almost like they also even connect through other timelines, right?
Almost,
so let's say there's 10,000 other timelines.
Almost like they have a synchronized consciousness, just like people do. Like, we're living in there's a scientist saying that the world is not just together because it's physical. It's literally a consciousness that is physical because we have a shared consciousness.
Right, exactly. And wouldn't it be crazy in the future if somehow it gets revealed that we're quantum computers somehow,
Or we're on an alien spaceship and we're actually just in their simulation.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be a little scary. But, like, I've had encounters with UFOs and extra-dimensional beings. I do believe they are on a higher dimensional plane and they're affecting us. They're not bound by time. I really don't believe that they're bound by our physical plane. They just walk through walls. That's what I believe. They actually are right around us. We wouldn't even be able to see them, like a spirit.
And who knows, they could be even watching this show right now.
In another dimension.
Are they actually getting what's going on here? They're talking about us? Yeah.
So when I saw my first being, it came to me. The first being that came to me, I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna. I was so scared, and it attacked me. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. I was like, and I punched that. I punched an alien in the face. I'm not kidding. I did, and it went. No, I'm not high. No, I'm not high. I'm completely sober right now. I know they're real. I know they're real. It was a gray. I know it was a gray. I punched it. I punched it in the face, and I was like, okay, wait. The grays.
What the hell is he on about?
The grays are they're the drone race.
But like a lot of people that are in the community I've been doing the last 2 years, a lot of them say they've had a near-death experience, and that's why they're awakened to the Mandela. Like, have you had any near-death experience in your life?
For myself, the only thing closest to that is I was in a severe car accident in 1990, and I should have died. The car was like a pretzel, and like they didn't know, like they were sure there were no survivors.
Yeah.
And I somehow emerged without a scratch. Let's say if there are guardian angels, I'll put it to them. But I know you're talking about some people will have a near-death experience, and sometimes things just get turned on, right?
Right.
Like, what about yourself?
Personally, at 11, I died. I thought I died. I was in a coma from black mold poisoning. My school had black mold, and I was the only kid in class. Ever since then, I've been spiritually awakened since at 11 years old.
Wow.
I've been in a motorcycle accident where I hit a minivan. My head smashed into the windshield. There was a time where my truck fell off the road and I hit a pole, but when I opened my eyes, the pole wasn't even there anymore. So I believe I hit the pole, and then I woke up and I'm myself, but the pole's not there. I've had a drug overdose. Somebody drugged me at a bar one time, gave me GHB. It's like that liquid roofie, right? My heart stopped. My heart was stopped for like 5 hours, they said. There's no way I should have survived. There was no ambulance or resuscitation. I just woke up as myself in another hospital, and nothing happened. And I kept questioning, like, why do I keep waking up, and why did nothing happens to me? Like, and I started thinking about quantum immortality. Have you heard of that?
It's an interesting concept. I'm not really familiar with that. Tell me what you know about it.
Basically, people have recounted dying, and then they wake up as themselves, but in a different body, like the same body, but everything's just a little different, and people have noticed the changes. It's like they just crossed over to a different dimension of themselves. If there's a multiverse and there's many versions of you and me, is it possible that we don't actually die until all of us as multiverse all die, and we die of old age? Is that possible?
That's really interesting, because I absolutely believe in the concept of the multiverse.
Yeah.
I believe that all of this really only works if the multiverse exists.
I noticed how you have like a mandala painting in the back, right? It's kind of like that. It's a mirror dimension.
Right. Yeah.
So it wouldn't be very hard for our consciousness to just cross over into the other version of ourself, because it's only a fraction of a second away. If it was ideal for our soul to continue on its journey of this lifetime in this vessel, which I do believe that, I made a Lazlow Zone show. I guess it's working. Maybe that needs to be, maybe I need to keep doing this. Maybe that's part of my mission to, help people grow. That's something I want to do.
I would definitely say keep it up, because I think what you're doing in your style is definitely waking people up and letting them see the possibilities.
Because, you'll definitely wake up when I put a bullet in your head.
Oh, that's right.
or go right to sleep.
Go.
A lot of people have all the negative side of their YouTube, and the fear-mongering is not something I've ever been into on my channel. I just can't do it. There's too much to live for and too much going on to just be constantly in fear. Because all my life I was afraid of World War III, I was afraid of bombings, and I was afraid of all that, all the time. And I never really did much with my life, because I honestly believed it was going to be the end of the world in 2020. And here we are, almost 2020, and it's nowhere near the end of the world, nor are we at war with, you know what I mean?
Right.
We have nothing to worry about. So why don't we keep the consciousness of love and keep it going, instead of constantly giving each other fear,
Exactly.
So maybe I'm just helping people ascend higher and higher to higher vibrations of love instead of fear. And then I'm helping all these conscious beings help the rest of us make a new order of world, not the one that everyone else is trying to build. You know what I mean? A new, like a positive side.
Enlightenment. Exactly.
Yes. I want people to just keep growing instead of, if you're not doing good, right? You're not bearing forth fruit. You're either productive or you're destructive. There's no other way around it. If you're trying to destroy yourself, most people are destroying themselves every day with debt and just going to work every day constantly in the same routine. That's destructive. They're really not going to go anywhere with that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's part of when people begin to become more aware of what's going on around them. I'm going to call it the system that dominates us, domination and control. Is that what people call it? Or, them. I'll call it domination and control. One of the branches they use is the financial system, so that from the time you're born, right, you get a social security number, you get stamped with some kind of number, and then you basically become indebted to the system. It's so hard to get out of debt for the normal person. Like me having this software business, like I worked 7 days a week for years. I was emptying the trashes. I was doing everything myself. Because if you want to pull yourself out of it, man, it's not an easy thing to do. And it's still a continuing battle and struggle too.
Yeah, think of all the people that spent their entire, I call it the box theory. My sister, she died in a car accident at age 20. The box theory is you're born in a box in a hospital. Eventually you go to your house in a box. And then you go to school, which is another box. And then eventually your parents tell you to go to college, another box. And then you go eventually get a job at a box and then go buy a box, which is a house. And then eventually you die and get put in another box. So you have to get out of the box.
You might have something with that box theory.
And that it was designed for that reason, so you stay in debt and you don't accomplish anything because they've constantly put you there and that you've fallen into their trap.
Right. And is that what the Earth experience is supposed to be? Like the Earth, we'll call it the Earth hologram? Is it supposed to be like this? I don't think so. I actually think when people begin to realize realize what's going on, people are going to almost be marching in the streets. Yeah. There's going to be grandmothers and grandparents with their grandkids and, wanting to have the true experience they're supposed to have rather than the one we have now with war and debt and blah, blah, blah. Religions that don't teach you the truth. Religions that give you maybe 5% of a truth nugget and 90 or 95% is the other way. So, yeah, I think when people begin to realize all these things and how they can actually change their surroundings and what consciousness is and this isn't our only experience. We've had other experiences in the past and we'll have more experiences on Earth in the future. And I think the world is actually on the precipice for an awakening event.
It makes sense because it's not just happening, let's say, in America or Canada. It's happening all over the world. Mm-hmm. I can look on my YouTube and see these people from Russia and India and Pakistan and China.
In my Facebook group, too. In my Facebook group, I'll have a lot of people saying, Mandela effects are only happening in America. I'm like, I have Canadians, I have people from the UK, New Zealand, all these different places comparing, and they will bring forth different potato chips and things that have changed for even color and packaging. And they're, the salt and vinegar used to be like the sour cream and onion. And then I'll get another one coming from New Zealand saying, hey, did you notice the chips changed? And I have nothing to do with that because I don't know those chips because I'm not from that area, but I allow them to discuss these changes and see. That's why I call it researchers, Mandela Effect Researchers, because we're researching and checking, and I will go and look for logos and see. Here's the history of the logo. Did they change it? Is there any proof of change before we can even call it an effect based on our consciousness shifting or whatever it is, right? I noticed the logo change in 1987. I was working on a Ford Thunderbird with my dad, 1957 pink Thunderbird, and he's detailing it for this show. And all of a sudden there was a squiggle. There was a pig's tail. That's new for some people. Some people are flipping over that. It just happened for them. That happened in 1987 for me, and then it went back to normal for a while. I had a flip-flop. And then it went back to a squiggle. I think it was probably around the same time as you experienced your first one. So about 2013, the squiggle came back for me, and everyone was talking about it. And I thought it was just them, we'll just change the logo up a bit. So throughout my life, there was all these dismissals of, I remembered it wrong. Oh, that person died? Oh, I must have thought I heard they died. That was before these death hoaxes and stuff, you know?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good point, because 2 or 3 years ago, I had this argument with my girlfriend at the time, and it was about the Flintstones, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, there's this Mandela effect about the Flintstones. It's now Flin instead of Flint. And she's like, of course it's Flint. It's always been Flint. I'm like, Fred Flintstone, caveman, Flint, you make sparks with the rock. Like, it was always Flint to me. So we had this big argument. It lasted for 2 or 3 days, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty intense, because I was very opinionated and so was she. So about 2 weeks later, I'm doing a sales presentation up in Albany, New York with one of my sales guys. And we're on the way back home, I'm telling him about this argument I had with my girlfriend about the Flintstones. And as I'm talking to him on his cell phone, he's bringing it up, and he's like, Chris, you're right, it's Flint. I'm like, what? And he showed me everywhere, Flintstones. And before, she had shown me everywhere online, it was Flintstones.
Yeah, that's a flip-flop.
So I'm like, but I go back home, and I'm like, I tell her, like, what's going on. I'm like, why don't you look up the Flintstones for me and tell me what you find. She looks at it, doesn't know what to say, and just says, it doesn't, don't worry about it. Science is going to figure this out. And I'm like, it has. You've been a big confabulator, you've misremembered. But it was really good, because it was really fresh in her mind, and because we had the big going back and forth. So you're right. The point is, they can flip-flop to make it even more crazy.
I actually found Flintstones on one of my first videos. I found a plate, a big ceramic plate from Dutchland or somewhere around there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It said Flintstones
on eBay.
And I could have bought it. I should have bought it. It's on one of my videos. But I find eBay is one of the best places to find like residue, because it's real things. People post it like that.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you. What was, if any, logo was the first one that you noticed that has always been, but for you, you're like, that is not how it was, a name or a logo?
Well,
besides Haas.
the one that like hit me like a year ago, I haven't researched this enough, so I'm just going to say it. But in the States, there's a cell phone carrier called Verizon. Yeah. And and I use Verizon. Shout out to Verizon. Nothing bad about Verizon.
Not sponsored.
Our sponsor, thank you. The check mark always used to be above the I, and now it's past the N in Verizon, and it just doesn't look right. I never researched it, but all of a sudden, either it's a Mandela effect, or all the Verizon stores, even when I reboot my phone, the logo is to the right. I'm like, did they change all the store logos?
I'll check into that one for you.
I have an example of how that's even possible, because maybe in one timeline, the guy just decided, I'll put it here. You know what I mean? He just made one conscious thought in his head, and then bam, one thought could change a timeline. That's all it takes. So in a split second, we just shifted to another world where a guy, the CEO guy, like you have a Nike symbol in yours. Did you notice that?
Yeah, you know what? It's actually, well, I've been told that before. It's actually a check mark, because our customers, it's a big thing. Like every time when drivers make a delivery, it's like they check. So that's actually where it came from. And then somebody said to me, I saw another video somebody did, and they said the name of your software is the Mandela Effect. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't spell entree with 2 E's. It's always ENTRE apostrophe, not ENTREE. Yeah. Well, the way I do it is the way it is officially now, but I'm like, it made me think like, wow, this name of our software is a Mandela Effect.
All right, I got it. I just researched it for you. It is a company change in Verizon. It's not a Mandela Effect, and it drove people crazy. It says apparently it got people really upset that they changed it. So that one we can scratch off. That's not an effect.
And you see, that's how you have to be. You have to. It can't be like, oh my God, it's another Mandela Effect.
Yeah, I was just expressing that with her this morning, talking about like in my dream last night. There was a product for dogs to have their feet glow in the dark, and everyone's online freaking out saying, "Oh, animals' feet glow dark now." I'm like, no, that's a product, man. It's not real. Look it up. And then there's so many other things that people would I could just make one up right now. I said Mario, he actually had red suspenders instead of blue. You know what I mean? And people believed it. I put it on Facebook. People believed it because I had photos. but it was just something Nintendo did.
Interesting.
Have you ever heard of the atom split theory, where scientists tried to shoot protons through 2 slits, but when it came to the end, it split into 5 because it has to be observed? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the electron. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So
I first learned about that in that movie, Down the Rabbit Hole. What the bleep do we know?
Right. Yeah.
Have you guys seen that one?
I used that on like one of my first videos. I was trying to explain it to people.
Okay, yeah. So that I had exposure to that a while ago, and I honestly at first didn't understand it. I had to watch it a few times.
It's basically that our reality is based on us knowing and seeing that it actually exists, and if we believe it, we can actually make something happen because we believe in it.
That's why when we're able to tap into I'll call it the human consciousness grid, and people can actually change the consciousness of what's going on around us, especially in a mass group.
Yes.
We're about 100 monkeys, so many begin to awaken. And I don't know what the percentage is, but let's say 10%, 20% of the population begins to awaken and question reality and realize there is a consciousness grid out there.
Yeah.
Some amazing things can be done.
It's just like there was a group of villagers on an island, and their shaman had to show them the ships were there. None of them have ever seen ships before. It wasn't until he said, "Look," he pokes them in the eye, and he says, "Those are ships." Because if they have never seen it before, that would be like me trying to explain to you what an alien actually looks like. You know what I mean? If you've never seen it, you can't even perceive what I've seen. Because I could try to explain it to you. But to me, they are interdimensional. They look like static. That's what they look like to me. They're there, but they're not there. I could see them because it was in an altered state of consciousness, obviously.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, because they're in a higher dimension.
Yeah. So when I see them, all I see is like claymation and static, and they look super creepy because obviously they're just pure like negative energy. And some of them are good, obviously, like angelic beings. They are good. I know they exist because I've felt them, and I've seen, even in the sky, I've seen like a big blue streak. I could see the wings of this angelic being in the sky. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that, but
I would say yes. I see a lot of things in the sky. Actually, I'm like, is that my imagination or is that an angel there?
What's really funny is that for the Canada Day thing, there was fireworks going off, but we actually thought there were UFOs in the sky.
Just for a second,
but there were fireworks that were burning and flying away in the sky for a good like 10 minutes, and we're like, is that a UFO? And we were so confused.
It's like they ran away from home. They're just by themselves, slowly flying away.
But when people, maybe the majority of UFOs are actually military. That's a question most people don't really ask themselves. They just think, oh, it's aliens. And
yeah, that's a good point. Like, what is it? This is like old news, but it's called the TR-3B, which is the triangular-shaped anti-grav that the U.S. Navy, et cetera, has had since, I don't know, the late 90s.
Yeah, and didn't they go public? They went public quite a while
ago. They went public, yeah, anti-gravity. That's the new thing. Forget about rubber tires on your car.
Yeah.
Someday I'm hoping we're shooting around with anti-grav technology.
They even have, there's these machines, they have, you can see it on pictures where the machine is so powerful, it can fly across America in 3.5 seconds. It's that fast. And they have it. They have that tech. And you can see the streak and the little blast wave where it shoots off. If they have that tech 20 years ago, what do they have now?
Right.
So
Exactly.
So what I predict is that just like Project Bluebeam and things like that, we're going to be seeing a lot of, we're in the age of deception. There's going to be so many things happening on the news. People believe everything they see on the news, but everything they see in the sky, even if they have Project Bluebeam and it actually works, they'll deceive millions and millions of people, lowering their vibration and lowering the way they perceive their own reality, and then saying aliens exist and we need to worship them. Have you seen Stranger Things? We were just watching that last night.
I saw the first 2 seasons, not the new one.
Because if you watch the new Stranger Things, they literally have a machine. It looks like Cern, right? They're trying to build a hole into this dark dimension.
Bring out all the
That's all they're trying to do is promote like whatever dimension opener. If it actually exists, why would you want to bring dark beings into this world? Why do you need that? Why do you want dark matter here? That doesn't sound like a good plan.
I have a quick question. You said you got to go to Egypt, is that correct?
Yes, I went to Egypt last September.
Okay, well, here's my question. I just came across some interesting info where they have now discovered a lot of ram head Egyptian hieroglyphics and statues and even a sphinx that has the ram head. Did you see anything like that when you were there?
You know, I didn't. I definitely had some mystical experiences when I was there, for sure. I did not see anything like that, but I heard of them discovering new pyramids and a new sphinx, and then they would like bury them back again because they're not ready for the public to know.
And they finally released the information this past February, and I came across an article when I was looking up ram's heads and things like that, because I have this theory about the Luciferian agenda, and that they're going to try to make it normalize that this is the true God, and you know what I'm trying to say, right? Without saying
just so I'm going to write this down, but what does the ram's head represent? Just so I understand that. Is that just like a negative?
Baphomet. You know Baphomet?
Baphomet.
The being that's a male and a female.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've been like yeah.
I do know that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what it appears to me, because they look like, to me it feels like they were just dropped there yesterday. They're too clean, too perfect. It doesn't sit. I'm an empath psychic, and to me, my gut is tingling, saying no, this is brand new, and they're trying to do an agenda.
I see it all the time. I see the news. You got to realize that everything's just a facade on the news. It's all been put there.
The world
for
is
a reason.
stage.
They have to do it because the only way you can control the masses is by telling the masses what reality is. They believe everything they see on TV. So my buddy's from Pakistan, and I asked him, "Have you ever heard of the Great Wall of Pakistan?" It's a huge wall that's been there this whole time. He's lived there for 20 years, and he never heard of it. Even his old man did not even hear that there was a Great Wall. There's a Great Wall of India and a Great Wall of Pakistan.
And he was like 70.
I know. And what is this, like a new trend going on that we didn't know about in the past? Like, is there there's a Great Wall of Canada.
There is a Great Wall of Canada, but
That's
it's
funny.
being it was sponsored to be built, and I think it's Saskatchewan or something.
Apparently, the government has a advanced technology that we can use so we can see into other dimensions, just like those D waves, but we can actually see it with a monitor.
You know what? That's funny, because I've heard legends and stories about like yellow boxes and Chromadex goggles and all kinds of different technology that different groups have that can see into other dimensions. They can see if a certain person is going to be popular, or whatever it is, how history is going to unfold. And I've definitely heard about those concepts.
That's why they never got away with killing Hitler, because he actually knew about it before he died.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
the whole thing when it comes to all that, I'm sure at some point that will be revealed, but it was never satisfying to me, the answer about how he died and his remains. And stuff was happening in Argentina and Antarctica and et cetera, but that is very interesting.
But Hitler was talking about, for thousands of years, did you know what the swastika even represents? Yeah,
it was not the symbol that it's become now in our culture, for sure.
It's a 3,000-year-old Sumerian symbol. It was about immortality and the cycle. There's a cycle that happens every 5,000 years. That's what they believe. Like the Mayans believed. The cycle is happening. And at the end of the cycle, they worship the black sun. That's what they were trying to tap into. The power of the black sun. I got a good question for you. Do you believe in flat Earth, or what do you think about that?
I'm going to say that I personally don't believe in the flat Earth. I believe in this hologram. The Earth is round.
Yeah.
The moon is round. The sun is round. Mars is round. Venus is round. So I'm gonna say that I'm not a flat Earther.
The only reason why I even take the concept of flat Earth to a possibility is if we are in a holographic universe, it doesn't even matter if it's flat or round. Because if we're in a video game, does the video game matter if the flat plane is flat or gonna go around this? You know what I mean? It doesn't calculate us going around like Grand Theft Auto.
Minecraft. You can only go so far up, so far across, and so far down.
If you just look in the Bible, I'm a pretty spiritual guy. I've been reading the Bible my whole life, and there's so many things in the Bible that are quantum physics that people don't even talk about. Like the first verse of the Bible is talking about God separating water from water. He separated the water above from the water below. What is that?
Okay.
He's trying to tell you that everything's like water, and we're this space called the firmament. And he made it like, if you were God, wouldn't you protect your people from like meteors and whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't you build a dome to protect your people? It seems like a waste of time if you're just going to create a whole race and they're going to get wiped out by like dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I do a lot of thinking of, if we're on a flat plane, how would that work? And it's kind of like a floating snow globe. You know what I mean? And then all these cultures talk about the underworld. They all talk about the abyss and how there's a like, what do they call heaven? They call it more of a...
The waters above.
Sure, but all the cultures have exactly what the Bible is saying too, as if we're living in a cased reality, where this is like the dimension that we're in, and the unveiling. You know what I mean? We're all being shown things. We're not allowed below or above. We're right in the middle. We're in this big spiritual war, and we're not allowed to go up or down. It's up to us to make that decision, right?
Right.
And that's what we're discovering. This life is a life of discovery. And
yes.
So, if you want to devote your life to do evil and do nothing but no good for the rest of the world, you're obviously making your own path to your own destruction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's called service to self.
Yeah.
Yes.
That do what thou'lt well do, or whatever. Right? There's no good end to that.
Right. Agreed.
So, if we're going to be going on for the rest of our lives and we're not helping anybody, then there's no way that this society is going to last. You know what I mean? Then it also talks about that there's a new earth and there's a new heaven or whatever. Is it possible that we're just going to shift to the new heaven or the new earth just like that? Just the whole rapture thing kind of makes more sense now that we're talking about quantum physics. We could just shift over there if they both exist.
Yeah. Is that like the 5D?
Yeah.
People talk about like going up to the 5D reality, going into a different type of Earth that's more beautiful and etc.
So what if on one timeline that if the actual rapture, let's say, happened, that's just a word for shifting over. What if the people that we left behind, what if they're actually in a world of like a hell on earth? What if that actually exists? And we just shifted over to the new earth and we left it behind. Nobody even noticed. We're still there. We're literally still there, but our consciousness is here.
Right.
Right?
So we're NPC on the other place.
So we are like a basic mindless drone over there, and we just seem stupid. But we're actually are alive in both quantum entanglement. We're in superposition. We're both there and here.
Yeah, and are there higher versions of ourselves existing in higher dimensions?
My new theory is that my new theory is that every time I go to bed lately, I feel like in my dream state, I feel like I'm in another world where I just keep continuing in this thing I'm doing. I'm doing something important in the lower dimension. And then I come back here and I'm like, I think that affected my life here. I made decisions down there in the dream world. And then I come here and I feel like I was doing something for the last 8 hours.
What if you realize that right now you are having a lucid dream?
Yeah.
You are in a lucid dream right now.
That would make sense. A lot, even in the Bible. I go back to the Bible because it says when you die, you actually go to sleep. What do you do while you're sleeping? You dream. What if we're all in a conscious dream or simulation that was built, right, for us all to wait? We're all waiting.
Right.
We're not in heaven or hell. We're in a world that was made for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all possible. Because it's all quantum physics.
All possible.
There's a verse in the Bible that says, "That which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been, and God requires that which is past." He's basically talking about everything's already happened.
Right.
Past, present, future, it's all happening right now. We're all in an eternal now. It's like eternity is already happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you had a friend that you haven't seen in 10 years, and then you meet up with them, and it's like, wow, it's like yesterday I've been talking to you. You know what I mean? It's that feeling of that connected. We're all connected. You know what I mean? Time is kind of an illusion.
Yeah. Time is, linear time in this hologram is actually a special thing.
Yeah.
Because I think in other parts of the universe, they exist in what we would call no time.
Yeah.
So we're existing in linear time, which is a very special, unique experience. And other beings are like, what? Linear time makes no sense. But it makes sense to us because we're experiencing it.
The other thing is in the Bible, it talks about reincarnation is actually in the Bible. The reason why they took it out is so they can control the masses. It talks about that the people back then will come back in the end days of Revelation, right? They'll just consciously, they'll reincarnate. The people, the 144,000. Doesn't it seem like the Mandela Effect people, it's around 144,000? Most of my videos had about 144,000 views. It was around that.
That I never thought of that, but that's interesting.
And the whole concept of the 144,000 is, it's kind of like Tesla's idea of sacred geometry, just like your mandala behind you. If there's 144,000 chosen people around the planet, it's perfect harmony around the world, or in the world, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So that harmonic state was an ancient knowledge where they had pyramids around the world, and it was a pure organ, like this thing is organic energy, and that energy was traveling all over like wireless energy around the planet. So that's what we're forgetting, and I think people are starting to remember it. So you having a company, I would say, this is my prediction. Tesla he had a bunch of light bulbs in the ground, and he had that massive Tesla tower. He could light up the whole field of light bulbs without wires.
Right.
I bet one day, pretty soon, because they're already setting up the 5G networks, one day you'll go into McDonald's or McDonald's, and you'll have your phone. You'll just walk into McDonald's and your phone will start charging wirelessly in your pocket because it will be putting out that much power. I'm surprised we don't already have it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what technologies are out there that we just don't have access to yet. And there's a lot, I'm sure.
It's because they control all the technology from like 50 years ago. I believe all the technology we have is re-engineered from alien technology. And they've just slowly been giving us stuff. They don't give all of it. They don't make any money doing that. They slowly upgrade it. Why do we need 25 iPhones? Because they're slowly giving us more and more tech, but they're charging out of us.
Yeah, and when you think about it too, like the number of transistors on a chip is now like 1 billion. When you get more than that, you're in the quantum world.
Yeah, the qubits, that D wave is going.
Yeah,
it's so like beyond a normal computer. What would be your prediction of what's happening, and what do you think is going to be happening pretty soon?
My prediction is that things are going to actually get better in ways that people are not going to be prepared for, but in a really good, positive ways. Like one of the things that I find really interesting, as you know, is about, quantum computers. I believe they can be used as a tool. Yeah. And I believe that there's going to be, I've said this before to other people, that there's going to be some kind of, I'll call it a killer application, in a good way, like, wow, everyone's going to use it. There's going to be something really cool that comes out as a result of like quantum computers that really changes even the way we do business.
Yeah, okay. Then, okay, I know where you're going with that. But if you believe in I believe in prophecy. I know exactly what's going to happen. Sort of, just based on prophecy. Okay, what you're saying about business, in a way, is not really a good thing for me personally because I'm a Christian. But for the rest of the world, you guys are good, because this thing is going to be so advanced. It literally says in the Bible, you cannot buy or sell without this chip. This technology will be so advanced, you cannot buy a piece of bread unless you have the mark of the beast, is basically what it is. This mark is advanced tech.
Ooh, I'm not thinking along those lines, but I want to say first of all that I'm definitely for, let's say, call it the Christ consciousness. Yeah. Definitely, absolutely, without a doubt. But here's just something to consider. Let's say you in another timeline invented something really cool. Yeah. And then somehow, because it's you can tap into that, and you could bring that into this timeline. Right. Like, I think that just having an awareness I think there's going to be far more things than this, but just having an awareness of you and having other versions of yourself in other timelines that have experienced things differently, that have made different decisions. If you had the ability to go out there and find out what they were, anything that's good, anything that's bad, stay far away from. Like things like that, I think could be helpful.
I just hope that this technology doesn't get in the wrong hands, because obviously power corrupts, and power corrupts absolutely, and it always does. It's always been like that. So I hope that we can use it for good. But the technology, if we had this technology, we would have already had free energy. They don't want us to have free energy. You know what I mean?
I think there's like a level. What happens is that as you begin to ascend, let's call it ascend, and your vibration begins to increase and rise, it becomes really, really difficult to do bad things anymore.
Yeah.
You begin to just want to do good. You begin to want to help others. You want to exist for the greater good of all. This is almost like I'll call it a dead man switch. You don't want to go back down again. You want to keep going up and making things better as things continue.
It's like I said, you're either just being destructive or creative.
You got it totally right, Chris. A lot of people that I've talked to in my group that have had near-death experiences from, say, drug overdose or whatnot, have completely, and it's not I woke up and decided, it's literally they feel that I can't drink, I can't do that ever again. It lowers their positive vibration and everything, so they don't do it. I never got into that. I never did anything like that. I don't even drink coffee. I've never even tried it. I'm just a total water drinker. But I just noticed that these people, they are changing their lifestyle, and things that they craved before that were bad for them, they've totally just, they don't even want anymore. Like all sorts of different things.
Have you been affected like in a bad way because of the Mandela effect? Or like, are people leaving the company or?
No one's left the company. We've had no customers that have left yet. It's more of like a little bit confused, questioning things. Yeah. But it hasn't been anything like, I would say, anything negative at all. And you know what I think I think the Mandela effect is a preparation, okay? Yeah. Because I think that, let's say there's some kind of disclosure event, and whether it's aliens or whatever it is that we're ready to be disclosed about, I think that if you already understand the fabric of reality and the nature of a holographic universe and how it works, it makes the whole concept of aliens landing on your front lawn a lot easier to take. Yes. Because you thought, oh my God, we're gonna die.
Well, we've been conditioned with movies for so long, right? And they're just saying that the UFOs are real. They're actually saying that on mainstream news. So
yes. So I think between the Mandela effect and what may happen in the future, it's almost like a preparation, so we don't totally freak out. Yeah. We're
conditioning, acceptance, and all that. Yeah, it's kind of like the RAM thing. It's like it's all of a sudden it's everywhere.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about before this even happened was, what if they actually know something we don't know? Like, have you ever heard of Planet X? Is that possible that there's a planet coming that has its own consciousness that's affecting our planet and our memories? Because they've got their own people on that planet. If it's coming by every 5,000 years, couldn't it be affecting us as a society?
Yeah, for that I'm not sure about, but I do know, like, the human consciousness grid is pretty powerful, so if we wanted to manifest that, we could probably manifest it. Like, I saw this clickbait thing the other day about an asteroid may hit the Earth in October of this year, a 2,700 megaton explosion. Yeah. And even though NASA says it's not going to hit us, if it did, it would cause all this chaos and disaster. I'm like, why do you even put that stuff out?
All the time. They're always doing it.
Yeah, like that just lowers the frequency. It lowers the vibration. Like, don't think about that, people. Just think happy thoughts, and it's never going to happen.
I literally say it like this to people that can't understand when I say that we are all frequency, and I believe that depending on our frequency and our moods is what can cause the shifts to lower. A lot of people that are very miserable, and the more miserable you get, the worse things start, the domino effect, right?
It's literally what Tesla said. If you want to understand the secrets, unlock the secrets of the universe, think of energy, vibration, and frequency. It's exactly what he's been doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you go into a room and you're in a great mood. You heard your favorite song. You're ready to go to work, and then this will obviously happen to probably every single person. And you walk in, and your boss is miserable and bitching people out, and then your coworker's upset because the boss is upset. So then they have problems at home, and they're taking it out on the coworkers. And that, what does that do? It lowers your frequency and puts you in a mood, because we feed off each other. It's sort of like the feeling of love and that type of thing. And some people it's such a simple concept to me, and it's a truthful one, and they can't grasp it.
The easiest way to understand, just look at animals. They're just pure feeling and energy. It's all, like, they don't even have to talk to you. They just know what's going on because they feel everything that's going on.
Yeah, and some of them I think have their third eye turned on, because sometimes, like, the dogs or the cats in my house, like, you can tell, like, they're looking at things that I can't see, and they're like tracking them.
Yes.
So it's like they can see, they're seeing orbs, or they're seeing something like that.
I
for
think
sure.
they definitely cats. I think they're there and here.
Yeah, right. Cats are special for sure.
Oh, I believe that all these beings that they're seeing, they all are right around us, but we just can't visually see them.
I see glimpses sometimes.
There are some people who can see these things running across the street, and they get into car accidents because they're like, "Oh my God!" And most people are like, "What? What the hell was that?
There's nothing there.
What's wrong with you?" My mom, for example, she was really sick, and she could see so-called demons in the house, and I'm like, "Oh." And I pretended like I was sitting on the couch and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" And to her, she literally could physically see a person sitting there, and I could not. So what if some of these people they're not schizophrenic? What if they're actually visually able to comprehend a dimension that we cannot?
Exactly, and I believe as the Schumann resonance continues to rise, it's just going to naturally happen to more and more people. More and more people are going to be like, "I just saw something out of the corner of my eye. What the hell is that?" Yeah.
Like, what does your family say about it?
So he definitely agrees with what the current reality is where he's from, which is totally cool. But he's a very religious person. He used to teach the Bible. So I'm like, "Dad, there's some religious things in the Bible." So the first thing I showed him was in Isaiah, the famous one where it says the blank will lie down with the lamb, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "What's the blank?" And he's like, "Well, the lion, of course." And I'm like, "No, Dad, it's the wolf." And he's like, "Well, that's just one version of the Bible you're looking at."
I have.
My dad has a Bible that's 400 years old. It's like this big, and it has aliens, tires, highways, and all kinds of weird stuff in it.
Oh,
it's just like when you see it in a Bible that old, it's like, yeah, there's something weird going on here.
Yeah, so like that really affected him. And then I'm like, there's another one in Matthew 18, because I used to hear him say this a lot. I'm like, Jesus said, "Where two or blank are gathered in my name, there I shall be." And he's like, "Two or more, of course."
2 or 3.
I'm like, "No, Dad, it's now 2 or 3. Yeah. So he actually goes into the bedroom. He pulls out 7 Bibles. He's like, "I'm going to show you, Chris."
Yeah.
Like, that's just one translation. But he puts all the Bibles out there, and it's like 2 or 3, 2 or 3, 2. So it freaked him out.
My battery died at the end there. That's why I got cut off. So basically, I told him that I admire what he's doing, and we need more people like him. People like maybe doctors. If you're a doctor and you got a PhD or something and you want to go public on Mandela Effect, you should call me and we'll do an interview. Also, I don't really get funding for these kind of videos because all the stuff we're talking about probably demonetized. So if you can donate to my channel, I got PayPal, Patreon, GoFundMe, whatever. It really doesn't, I don't need it for the money. I need it for getting new equipment so I can do better videos. So you've just watched the Lazlow Zone.
First off, what do I mean by changes to your data? Over the last 3 to 4 years, there's been a growing amount of NECS clients that have been calling in saying that the numbers on their reports and dashboards do not appear to be accurate. Now, this is something that causes NECS, our technical support department, to spend a large amount of time and resources helping customers figure out what's going on and if the reports are accurate or not. This video is not to make an excuse for a software bug or corrupted data in your Entree data tables. When the data is manually audited, including going back to hard copy invoices, etc., purchase orders, the data on reports and dashboards is proven to be accurate and correct. This issue causes hours and days, sometimes weeks, of wasted time for both NECS, technical support, and our clients. what is happening. I believe that NECS is the first technology company to come out in the open to expose what is happening that is causing sometimes critical, mostly unexplainable, deviations in your data. It's okay if after you're presented with this information, you are confused, you have more questions, or you even think that I, as the president and founder of a software company, am a little eccentric or out there. That's okay. One thing I want to stress is that the entire staff at NECS, which is almost 40 employees, appreciates and cares about your business. We feel we have the best software without question for food distribution. My team of 10 programmers sincerely cares to provide the best software with some important new products that we're going to be releasing in 2020. My team of 11 technical support staff, they truly also care, and they want to ensure your experience with our software is the best, and of course all your data is completely accurate. So let's begin. For example, you might look at a report or a dashboard and know from your memory if one of your customers purchases much more or less of a certain item than you expected. It would raise some red flags in your mind. Well, NECS client data is very specific to a specific NECS client. For example, if you regularly sold 10 cases of pepperoni to Joe's Pizza every month, another client in another state would have no idea about that. Instead, a really good way to illustrate that your data is changing has to do with your product descriptions, especially with descriptions of items that are common that we all know. What do I mean? Let's start with an example. The avocado. Many of my clients are produce distributors, and they sell a lot of avocados. The most popular type of avocado is the, what's it called? HA blank S. What do you think? HA blank S. What goes in the blank? Well, the answer is another S. HASS. Hass. Did you think it was Haas? HAAS? Look it up. Google it. The Haas avocado, HAAS, has never existed. It has always been called Hass, HASS. The story of how these avocados were discovered has also changed. In the past, from my research, they were crossbred by a German botanist named Rudolf Hass, Haas. I specifically remember reading about his story. However, now, you can Wikipedia this, they were accidentally discovered growing in the backyard of a post office worker named Rudolf Hass. Now, if you thought it was actually Hass, that's okay. There's actually no wrong answers. Now, does this mean I, or possibly you, just have a really bad memory? As a food distributor, you want to make sure you spell your items correctly on your purchase orders, your invoices, etc., especially because if it's spelled wrong, you may not get paid. Now, when you go ahead and you research this for yourself on Google, you're going to come across something called the Mandela Effect. I'm going to address that soon and what it means, because it is actually key to beginning to understand what's going on. And it's also very important to understand that these changes may be completely obvious and appear incorrect to you, but others may say, of course, they've always been called the Hass avocado. This is one more layer which makes this phenomena difficult to understand. Let's look at another example. Let's move on to the apple. A very popular type of apple, and the national apple of Canada is it the Macintosh apple or is it the McIntosh apple? The answer is McIntosh. Did you think it was Macintosh? This information change is also noteworthy because Apple Computer had released the Apple Macintosh computer in 1984, which we now know to be incorrectly named. They should have named it the Apple Macintosh computer. Let's look at another example. Stuffing is one of those foods we all eat around Thanksgiving, and I know that many of my clients sell a lot of stuffing mix around that time of year. Have you ever heard of a type of stuffing mix named Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing? Think about it. Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. Impossible! Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing has never existed. This stuffing mix was introduced by General Foods in 1972. It was then purchased by Kraft in 1995. It's never been called Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. Kraft reports at least 60 million boxes of their stuffing are sold a year. That's a lot of stuffing. The tagline is, if it's not stovetop, it's not Thanksgiving. I want to stress that this is not our software making these changes. Changes in data is a phenomena that software technology companies like NECS have been noting, most especially as it affects our bottom line and requires more technical support resources. Now there's a whole other list of these things. I'm just going to name off of some changes that might sound familiar to you. Fruit Loops cereal. Fruit Loops was always spelled F-R-U-I-T. Now it's spelled F-R-O-O-T. And it's always been that way since 1963, which is really interesting because I always used to say that unless sugar is a fruit, someone's going to be sued. And I guess their attorneys must have heard me in another timeline or something, and now it's F-R-O-O-T. Another one is Cup of Noodle soup is now called Cup Noodles, and it's been that way since 1971. Scotch Guard products are replaced with G-A-R-D instead of G-U-A-R-D. It's been that way since 1952. It just doesn't look right. Brussels sprouts are now Brussels sprouts. Say that 10 times fast. I don't think I can. Van de Kamp's pork and beans is now Van Camp pork and beans. It's been that way since the 1880s. Whiteout that they used to use on the typewriters in the old-fashioned days is now spelled W-I-T-E, out. It's been that way since 1956. Liquid plumber, instead of plumber being spelled like plumber, it's P-L-U-M-R, and it's been that way since 1969. And for those of my clients that service the nursing home industry, Depends adult diapers is replaced with Depend adult diapers. It went from Depends to Depend. That doesn't make any sense. What is going on? Quantum physics states that there are an infinite amount of parallel universes and that the nature of our universe and all others in the multiverse is that they are holographic. As a reference, you can read a book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, which is all about quantum physics. It came out in the 90s. It's a de facto standard about this subject. Others in the mainstream world have been noting these types of changes and have coined the phrase the Mandela Effect to describe what's happening. What is the Mandela Effect? It was named after Nelson Mandela. In 2009, there were over 10,000 people on an internet site called Reddit that acknowledged a distinct memory of him dying in prison in the late 1990s. There were riots in the street. In fact, I remember seeing the headline newspapers of people rioting in South Africa. However, he did not actually die until December 5th, 2013. What's going on? Other popular Mandela effects include the JFK assassination. For example, I always remember there being 4 people in the car, the driver, the Secret Service person in the front, JFK and Jackie O in the back. Now there's 6 people in the car, and the car looks different, and it's the governor of Texas and his wife are in the car, and the governor of Texas gets shot in the leg, and all these things happen. It's a different angle. All these things happen differently in the Zapruder film. The Berenstein Bear children books have changed. They used to be called Berenstein Bears, and now they've always been known as the Berenstain Bears. Over 10,000 Mandela effects have been logged and confirmed. It also includes changes in human anatomy. For example, I always remember that our heart was in our chest, slightly to the left. So you put your hand over your heart, and that's where your heart was. But now your heart is actually in the exact center of your chest. There have been new animals that have crept into the vernacular that are common that I have never seen before. Even the location of continents on our planet has changed. I remember the time when South America used to be under North America, not pushed way out towards Africa, which doesn't make any sense. How come they didn't discover South America first? Because it's maybe a 2-day boat ride. I don't know. Well, if you research this or ask an official source, such as Wikipedia, the Mandela effect means you are having a confabulation, or it is a mass misremembering of an event. A confabulation is a false or a distorted memory. So if you clearly remember Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing, you are having a false, distorted memory. Really? If millions of other people all share the memory of a product called Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing, And don't forget that there are 60 million boxes of this sold every year, so there are people out there that remember it this way. You're all having a mass misremembering of something that never existed? What? In the world of quantum physics, everything is data. Even our DNA is software. It's source code, and it's data which contains the blueprint of who we are. It's really quantum physics at work. What is a quantum computer? I find them extremely fascinating. A company called D-Wave out of Vancouver, Canada, has created and sells the world's most advanced quantum computer. It can solve problems faster that all the computer technology combined currently existing on this planet can't. And you can visit their site for more information. The president of D-Wave has stated publicly and in large technology gatherings that the way they work is by exploiting the resources of parallel universes. The number of parallel universes it can exploit is measured in something called qubits, or quantum bits. This is important to note because it lays the groundwork to begin to understand what is happening. It's all related to quantum physics and parallel universes. This is science. This is math. Now, I bet you never thought you'd see me doing a video like this. So, just as Stouffer's stovetop stuffing never existed in our reality, or something else like Haas avocados changing to Haas in our universe or timeline or whatever you want to call it, such is the same with your specific entree data. NECS is going to continue to help you verify all your report and dashboard information. Don't worry about that. We're going to be here for you. But it's important that you at least be aware of this as a very real possibility. I say trust yourself. Trust your memory. These things are not group misrememberings or confabulations or signs that you have Alzheimer's disease. Research this for yourself. We're living in a very special time, and these things are like an alarm clock going off to either awaken you or hit the snooze button. Now, I have a lot more information about this I'd like to share, so if you're interested in this topic and you'd like to hear more, just hit the like button, feel free to share this link, etc., and let's continue the conversation, because this is just your introduction to it. I don't want it to end here, and if you'd like to hear more, I don't mind sharing it with you. So thank you for the time you spent watching this video, and I hope to talk to you more about this subject.